All right. Welcome to another episode of Leader Generation brought to you by ModUp. I'm your host, Tessa Burg, and today I am joined by Stuart Goldstein. He recently joined ModUp as our new COO, and we are so excited to jump into the why behind that move and hire. And as you may have heard, ModUp recently landed on the Inc. 5000 list. We are number 976. And it's such a milestone for us as a company to break into the top 1,000. And Stuart is coming to us at the perfect time where we are, like many of you, going through transformational change, growing rapidly, and needing to navigate an ever changing and really complicated technology, systems, and most complicated people environment. Stuart, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tessa.
So, new COO, lots of big, high expectations. We always say internally, we're
Yeah.
looking to grow faster, better, smarter. But the way that we've grown has been through acquisition. So
hmm
we're pulling in agencies who were, I mean, we are still an independent company, but it's a little bit different when we're, looking to go. Right now, we're almost to 500 employees. We're going to
Yeah.
continue to grow. But for you, this isn't new. This is, you've been there, done that. You've worked at large scaling, rapidly growing agencies in the past. So before we jump into transformational change and leadership, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure, sure. So I've spent my career helping agencies and professional services firms scale. The through line has always been about bringing structure and clarity to creative, fast-moving agencies, environments. And along that way, I've led teams through mergers and digital transformations and process overhauls and client growth across advertising and tech. That's been the theme. When ModOp came up, it really checked every box for me. It's growth minded, it's PE backed, it's entrepreneurial, with a very ambitious leadership team, Tessa, that was ready for real change and not just talk. And so my role as COO is really connecting the dots across our strategic business units. And that's aligning people and process and platforms and making sure we're scaling in all the right ways, that's sustainable, right? And end of the day, it's about happy people, and which usually means happy clients, and those really go hand in hand.
They really do. We were talking before we started recording that
Mhm.
when there's a strong agency client relationship, when you can see the client for who they are and the expertise and the leadership that they bring to the table in their business and, overall to their customers and clients that their businesses serve, it is such a unique combination and it leads to longer relationships. And our vision at ModUp is to really redefine the way agencies deliver values to clients. And one of the ways that we're doing that feels different is we want everyone to work in these shared processes and shared platforms. But it's really hard when everyone's coming from like their own way of doing things. Uh, we're seeing this in our client environments too, as they try and consolidate down departments, consolidate down tech, figure out where does AI fit in. What are some tools or what are some approaches that you've used in the past that have helped people with very different backgrounds and very different ideas around how process should work come together into those shared spaces and shared processes?
Yeah, I think when it comes to navigating that change and all the shared, yeah, platforms and processes, ways of working, the tech or the process piece is usually the easy part. The real work is the people, because I think change can create real uncertainty, and uncertainty creates resistance. So if you don't address that head on, even with the best systems, they'll stall, right? So what it really comes down to is over communicating and listening as much as you talk, and giving people the why behind the change, not just the what. So, you also, I find, need to meet people where they are sometimes. Some will be, and you probably know this from rolling out all the AI activities, some will be eager adopters, others will be cautious, and I think both matter. So I found the most successful transformations happen when you make people feel like participants and not passengers. If they see their fingerprints on the change, they'll own it. And when people own the change, I think that's when it sticks.
I really love that answer. And I feel like there were three really rich layers that I would love to dive into. And I'm just going to caveat that this question might be putting you on the spot, but I'm really curious when we think about the change that ModOp is going through, acquiring niche agencies, niche expertise, bringing them all together so that our clients have this single door of access. How would you describe the why behind our change and the why are we going on that journey and why are we pursuing that positioning?
To create competitive differentiation, I think first and foremost, right? We do want to be different, right? We want to offer clients something different. We want to offer our people something different, whether it's career pathing, right? Innovation, um, thinking about their role in the agency differently, right? And how they can add value. For me, it starts there, right? And then for clients, I think it's really looking at how we can help them achieve their goals, right? And really understanding their pain points and mapping that to kind of our service offerings, our capabilities, and what we want to offer as an agency, right? Um, so listening to people, but also listening to our clients in the right ways.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point, and I feel like is the epitome of our mod culture is the listening to clients. Like we have seen clients struggle with having to manage and coordinate and become almost like the mediator, scheduler, combiner of deliverables from all these different agencies,
Yeah.
where there is an opportunity to show up a little bit differently, to have things still. I mean, when I was on the client side, I had three different agencies for one of our brands.
Hmm.
And the thought then was I wanted to have the best and the brightest within each of those lanes, which within media versus web development versus creative.
Hmm.
And it did create overhead at the same time. I
Yeah.
had all different meetings. I almost felt like I got caught in a waterfall thing. Like sometimes we were really waiting on creative and then
Hmm.
I have to pause the web team. And where we're looking to do that something different, that big why is can we bring that same level of expertise, deep expertise within those disciplines, but make the client's life easier and
Yeah.
take down the amount of time they're doing coordinating and administrating across. And we were chatting about like the podcast, the history of the podcast. We have a lot of really great strategic thinking clients.
We
I mean,
do.
every time we interview one of
Yeah.
them, I'm like blown away by their, authentic passion for their jobs, for what they're delivering to their customers. And so you talked about, being a participant in this change. And while we're all unified under listening to clients and serving clients, sometimes the word different or doing something different ends up being a lot stinking harder
Hmm.
than you anticipate. So, what are some things that you have found, especially with different personality types, like how creatives see, accept, and process change? I have found is really different than how the tech team sees, accept, and
Yeah.
processes change. And so how do they all, with different perceptions, with different sort of approaches to change, become a participant in defining and driving uh, the overall vision?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some people lean in right away and others hang back until they see proof that it works. And I think I said, the key is to meet people where they are initially, and give early adopters room to experiment and share wins, right? And we've done some of that on the AI front, right? And I think you have to give the skeptics space to ask questions and voice concerns. If you listen to kind of both groups and keep communicating the why, you can bring the whole team along ultimately, I find.
Yeah, I have seen other change initiatives. When you don't
Hmm.
listen to skeptics, or if you
Hmm.
uh, unvalidate or disvalidate, I don't know what the word is, their feelings, like say,
Yeah,
I feel this way, or I
give
think,
a voice.
yeah,
Yeah.
then you lose them. Uh,
Hmm.
it could have been the balance or the perspective you needed. Uh, and just by ignoring it or saying that you shouldn't feel that way, you shouldn't think that way, now
Hmm.
you've really lost the value in giving them that space and
Yeah.
area to contribute. So you've said it a couple of times, AI is definitely a big part of what is evolving and changing the way marketing is done.
Hmm.
We're navigating it, our clients are navigating it. What advice would you give CMOs and marketing leaders who are also trying to deal with this rapid technological advancement?
Sure. I guess a couple of things come to mind. And we've talked about this before. And AI for us isn't just a tool. It's something we're building into the core of how we work. And I really respect how we've rolled it out. But that means making it accessible to everyone and not just tech folks. And we put a lot into adoption and governance so teams can use it responsibly. We've talked about fair use offline, creatively and at scale. Um, and at the same time, I think we're thinking about long-term talent, right? Long-term about talent. And that's entry-level programs to grow the next generation quickly and making sure our rising stars have opportunities to lead. Tools change, markets shift, but um, people are really what set agencies apart, right? Um, so that's one part of it. And I think advice for CMOs is what you asked in terms of navigating that change. Um, I mean, for me, I guess my advice would be first lead with clarity and not panic, right? Because you can feel like you're behind. If tech change feels overwhelming to you as a CMO, it'll feel overwhelming to your team. So I would frame AI and data as opportunities, not threats, right? Second is probably guardrails, set them early. Otherwise, you end up with smart people running experiments in silos and you miss out on all the shared learnings, right? Um, and probably the last one I would, from an advice perspective, don't lose sight of the human side. I always go back to this. Creativity and culture are what keep people engaged. So make sure that new tools amplify that and not replace it.
Yeah, I like when you were giving the perspective from the agency side and the marketing client side. It is all about the people and the value that
Hmm.
they bring. In your past experience in integrating agencies and working with clients, has there ever been another technological advancement where folks felt like it was going to disintermediate their careers or impact, the way they hire and develop talent?
That's a great question. Multiple come to mind immediately because I've kind of lived and worked through all the waves, the Web 1.0, Web 2.0. I think when early web development, like the WYSIWYG, like the what you see is what you get platforms came out for web design development, that scared people. Some of the tooling around social media, and content generation, I think got people nervous. So I think, we kind of lived through all those different waves. I think AI is that next wave, and so yeah, it's slightly no different than that, but also it changed. I feel like it changes everything, So I think we're learning in real time what that impact will be to tooling and people and ways of working.
Yeah, Forrester reported that there's 186% more change happening now than ever before.
Yeah,
So I agree. I feel like it is really similar. I remember being on both sides, like the person who was benefiting from other people being freaked out, like the advent of social media, just because at the time I was or I still am a millennial, but I was like a young millennial.
Hmm. Of
Well, of course, she should run social media because she's young and
course.
she used Facebook in college, so she's a
Hmm.
genius at that specific thing. All other things millennials would dumb and entitled, but it's social media. We were
Yeah,
apparently rock stars. Um, I had not used Facebook until that time. I just didn't say anything. And then on the other side, I just got called like too old for the first time ever, and I just thought that was hilarious. Like,
that's not fair.
yeah, somebody was explaining to me why I was having trouble understanding why someone would want or not want things recorded on an app because a lot of AI, I mean, even before the AI advent, our devices are listening to us. Like
Yeah,
everything is being recorded, and it does become concerning when wearables are going to start combining what they hear with other data features, with
sure.
your body responses, with where you're going, where you're physically at. And someone much younger than me was like, well, it is for, the older generation that is going to be a little bit scary. And they're like, that's because like older people like you are just like used to more, divisions. I'm like, what? I'm like, that should be scary for everybody. And
Exactly.
not
Yes.
just because I'm ancient, but it was just funny thinking about how that person was really leaning into that advancement and the what's possible when you take biometrics and other signals
Sure.
combined with audio. And I had just never been the person on the other side who was like the resistor. I was like, oh
Yeah.
crap. Uh, but again, kind of evidencing there really is benefit to both. Like when
Yeah.
people resist, it's sometimes I still find it hard to not just focus on the resistant and really dig into the why.
Yeah.
Because the why they're resistant is where the value's at and is where you can unlock and have a productive conversation. But it's so hard, and I can't believe you've done it for so long. I mean, don't you just sometimes feel like,
It's different. Yeah, it's same but different, you know. But I think with the resistance, like you have to create the environment for people to want to share, right? And be really open about it, right? If you don't create that environment, they'll crawl into back into their world, and not share. So you can't really think about how they're thinking about your change initiative. So
yeah, and I feel like that's a little easier said than done. Some
it
companies
is.
intentionally punish
Hmm.
people, like they might not select people who are resistant or not initial hand raisers to be a part of certain
Sure.
initiatives. And it's something like leaders really got to look out for. Like, are you truly including,
Hmm.
diverse voices in the room, even when it's hard, even when it's
Sure.
hard to have someone who is constantly asking questions.
Yeah.
Um, so when we think about that, like making sure we have those voices in the room, that's one example of what doesn't work. What are some other examples when you're navigating technological change that don't work? Like you've seen, and you've been a part of many different models. And so
Hmm.
maybe things that worked in the past maybe don't work now, and maybe some things that weren't working are now the better path. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen in terms of this works for facilitating change and this doesn't work for facilitating change as we continue this journey into the 186% more levels of anxiety going on.
Yeah, and I can speak kind of at a high, maybe a higher level initially, but I think there's a shiny object trap, and that can be really real, whether it's tools or platforms or whatever it may be. And I think rolling out, I'll say tools without a plan or measurable outcome, that just burns resources and burns people. So I always like to start with that. I think underestimating change management. Um, I go back to, I want to say launching tech is easy, but it's changing habits and mindsets is the hard part. And if you're not thinking about training and communication, then you're going to get that adoption lag in a big way. Um, and then I think maybe we've learned a little bit about this, in terms of rolling out all these AI initiatives at ModOp, but don't let AI or something like AI or data or whatever it may be sit in a single team. If it's siloed, it won't scale. So I know you worked hard at creating champions across multiple disciplines at multiple levels. If it's siloed, it won't scale. So you have to bake it into every part of the business so it becomes really part of the DNA.
Yeah, you said a couple of things that have actually come up in client conversations. One,
Mm.
sometimes I think it's hard for people to realize they're doing this. Don't roll out tools and first make sure you have a change program in place, that you
Yeah.
started with the listening and baselining. And I know when you started, you did a listening tour and you
Mhm.
talked to all of the leaders across the company. What were some of the things that came out of listening to the various leaders across different disciplines that informed the way you're approaching leading change now?
I think some of the main themes were, how do we become a more unified company? How do we become a one ModOp in all the right ways, right? And so, we are a remotely dispersed office, which is actually a great positive too, because it allows us to tap into talent across the globe, essentially, mostly North America. But how do we align on consistent communications, processes, right? Ways of working, but also ultimately kind of platforms, right? So that's what I heard from a lot of folks as I'm listening. And also how do we create connections virtually, right? And it's not easy to form relationships and build trust online. So how do we create opportunities for our people to meet each other in a live setting, right? A lot of us are so used to being in these virtual environments. Um, so we're looking at how do we create more opportunities from that perspective as well, right? Because it leads to better collaboration, and I think better ideas for our clients.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one little nugget of hearing leaders who are across departments
Hmm.
operating very differently say, hey, we want to be more unified, also becomes sort of the sounding board for platform and tool evaluation. I also lead IT, so we get requests for new
Hmm.
tools and apps all the time. And it helps when you have a shared vision and a shared culture and values on, hey, we do really want to work together. We do think that's what differentiates us.
Yeah.
Then say, does this tool align against that? Does this tool work within our existing stack? Are we
Hmm.
able to make it accessible to more than just you? Will it scale? And when you don't start with listening and really and pulling out where's our shared points of interest and where are we able to have shared goals and values, then change becomes even harder and you could really get
Hmm.
dragged down into sort of the disillusionment state. And
Sure.
like, okay, I started with understanding why, but now I've been told no for what feels like weird reasons or, arbitrary reasons for so long. Now I'm totally disillusioned. And so what types of things on the flip side, was there anything surprising? Like those were sort of like your golden nuggets, but were there anything where you're like, huh, coming into Mod App, I would not have thought this.
Well, I think and maybe giving a little kudos to you and your team. I mean, I did not know how mature in advance the innovation piece was coming in, right? And how much progress you had made from a training perspective, kind of an adoption roadmap for AI in general across disciplines. So that was a very pleasant surprise.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
because many of the companies I was at prior had not made as much progress and did not follow some of the kind of the checkbox items that you and I had discussed in terms of change management and being thoughtful around people, right, and systems. So that was a very pleasant surprise that I really liked.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before we got on the line that
Hmm.
there nothing about leadership is 100% natural. I think there are people who are more likely to have some native inclinations on how something should go. But for the most part, you learned it, you were trained, you're a person with a growth mindset who loves to take in what they just heard or experienced, whether it be a class or whether it be from a mentor, and say, hey, how does this work in my environment? And that change process, I will say, came from a lot of the training that I had to do and other leaders at companies we worked at in the past.
Yeah.
And what I'm really excited about at ModApp and going back to people feeling disintermediated, a lot of companies are pausing their entry level jobs. And that to me is such a shame. Like we talked about, while people are the hardest part of change, people are the highest value in any company. And so to start pointing to AI as to why you would not hire an entry level position or it's replaced those basic skills, we're actually going to lean into like a management style training program. We won't all be for management, but when we think about redefining work, we're going to people don't have to come in at the same role.
Hmm.
Roles are evolving, but we still want to have this pipeline of talent that's coming in to do the work differently than how we
Yeah.
in the past and to train and give them those skills to do so. Where have you seen training add value or really change and bring a company's vision to life in your past?
Well, I guess, well, I guess I first want to start talking about AI for a second because it's really interesting what you just said. You know, um, uh, I'm thinking to myself, is AI, different than those past waves where we had to like upskill, right? In terms of digital and social and mobile and the metaverse, right? All those different factors, right? We've seen these big waves before. But for me, AI is hitting every discipline at once, from creative to media to ops, right? And in the past, you could phase things in, right? With AI, you need a more integrated approach from day one. And the skills piece is different too. Before, new tech, maybe this plays into what you were saying about, rethinking about roles and those entry level folks. Before, new tech meant hiring specialists, and now AI competency is an expectation across the board, right? Creatives and strategists and PMs and analysts. And that really shifts how you hire and how you train and ultimately how you measure, right? So, you know, um, you know, I think every discipline needs to think about their people and their path and how that parlays into their clients, right, as well, and what the clients are feeling and listening to, and experiencing. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I think you hit on something important.
yeah.
It's training has to go beyond technical training.
Hmm.
Like when AI is looking to replace a lot of highly repeatable tasks or almost do the work for you, we were talking about the importance of presentation training and
Yeah.
the fact that people who are able to take in a lot of information and then distill it down into an accessible manner on the spot are highly valuable.
Hmm.
It keeps you from panicking. I call it like keeps you from jumping into the back of the plane. Like you said
Yeah.
earlier, like you have to stay calm. You have to be the voice that's listening. You have to take it
Yeah.
all in. And sometimes that's really stinking hard when it feels like everything is changing all at once everywhere and you're just trying to keep up with putting out the fires. It's really
Right.
hard to stay the pilot and not just jump into the back of the plane and wave your arms around too and be like, oh my God, it is going down. You're absolutely right. And that's the other thing. Like a lot of times feedback is right. Things are out of control. Things are moving too
Yeah.
fast. We shouldn't have to do these things. Uh, so yeah, training now, I feel like in the past it has always been even our onboarding plans. Even when I
Hmm.
started our onboarding plans was how to technically use certain things in front of you and the types of skills and expectations we had to measure that.
Hmm.
Where now we're elevated into what does it mean to be a strategist? What
Yeah.
does it mean to step from manager role into director and director of what? Uh, it won't be just people. It will be
Yeah.
agents and processes. And I was listening to this interview with oh man, I can't, I feel like I'm going to botch his name. Dennis Musavas. He is the founder and CEO of DeepMind, which is a part
Mhm.
of Google.
Yep.
And they were talking about like AGI, and he said one of the biggest differentiators that really separates us is creative thinking. And I think that's something we're trying to infuse into what we would call training is it's not just sit back and learn, but it's
Yeah.
also how do we come together on challenges to creatively solve them and unlock a
Sure.
different way or a different approach. But I feel like it's very different than just straight up training in the past, but I feel like it can learn from some really fun old school tools like having hack days. You know?
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I think hack days are super valuable. I think the training in this environment has to be continuous. It's not one and done, and you just can't roll out a new tool or a process and expect it to stick, right? So I think
Yeah.
I think everyone comes with a different learning approach as well. Some want videos, some want offline learning, live learning, but I think people need bite-sized learning at this point, hands-on practice, and ultimately, like you and I discussed, a safe space to ask questions as things evolve, because they're certainly evolving.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So before we're almost at time, but before we get off, I wanted to know what are you most looking forward to in the next year? Like, here's where we are today as ModUp. We're coming together. We're coming onto shared platforms. What does ModUp look like in a year from now as we continue this journey?
I mean, I think, I'm personally excited to plug into this larger platform, and hopefully create deeper resources for everyone here, right? Access to more services for our clients, talent, and tools, as we've discussed, to drive real impact. So, I think I'm looking forward to our team to be able to say yes to more clients, right? Because of the breadth of our capabilities, right? I'm energized by the challenge of integrating, all these great practices into a bigger organization, and helping to write that next growth chapter. So, just personal contribution that excites me. Excites me to be part of a great leadership team and to building, further relationships across the company. And I'm also thrilled about working with, um, you know, our broad mix of talent here, right? And as we kind of navigate this new world of AI, so and how we apply data and tech and marketing automation expertise in bigger, more impactful ways, because ultimately it gives our people the chance to grow, right, as well. So you get that double punch there. We're helping our people and enhancing their careers, but also ultimately giving our clients real value. So that's what excites me.
Yeah, I love that. It's something for some reason I feel like the more I listen to parenting podcasts, it actually helps me too, is be a better manager.
Yeah,
But one of the things that came out of trying to support my son and not get caught up in all the anxiety that he feels around wanting to be the best soccer player in the world or just wanting to be a good student at school is you really do unlock your best self when you're in a space where you can see and feel your value. Like it's
yeah,
awesome to show like you're really feeling yourself, but
100%.
you're having fun.
Hmm.
I think in your answer when you lean into like you want people to be happy, but it doesn't mean that getting there isn't also going to be a little hard.
Yeah,
But isn't that where like happiness and connection really comes from? Like when you can bond with people because you found that happiness and you found that solution together.
yeah, absolutely. And it may be like you said, like a little painful, right? But
Yeah.
you can create an environment where there is healthy debate, healthy discourse, right? And you all go home at the end of the day and high five and get right back into the next day. So
Yeah, I agree. I was working at a new company and we were navigating some change and we were pitching my old company they came from to be a client. And when I walked in, I gave everyone that I used to work with a hug. And I didn't even realize at the time that I was not very, I don't know if affection is the right word, but I didn't really make contact with anyone at my new
yeah.
company. You're leaving. And one of the engineers is like, he's like, so where do we go? Like, how do you get to the hugging stage? Like, I've never seen you be that warm with anyone. And he's like, that was really surprising.
Hmm.
How do you go from, hi, I see you in the morning to, oh my gosh, and hug? And I'm like, it's getting through adversity. It's building something, it's doing something
Yeah.
that maybe people didn't think you can do, or other people are like, I'm not sure there's any value in that. But being with a group of people who truly believes, and like we do here at ModUp, and I'm also very excited that
Yeah.
there is a different way for agencies to show up for clients in a way that delivers tremendous value, solves some of these huge challenges, and elevates the humanness in it all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I like the idea of more hugs. So
yes, me too.
period. Yeah. We need to hug more. Yeah. Of course, appropriately, but yes.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's there's no better feeling when you can look back and be like, man, that journey was worth it.
Yeah. You went through battles together. Yeah. You deserve a hug. So, yeah.
Well, Stuart, we're really excited to have you here on our journey. And we've already made so much progress. And it's when I think about like what's going to happen in a year, I do think there'll be a lot more hugs. And I also think it's going to be interesting to see how much more we can grow, like people wise, client wise, and just super excited to see like the case studies that come out of it from all the amazing work that can be fueled through data and innovation.
Couldn't agree more. Excited to partner with you and the leadership team. And as I travel to all the different offices, because I was in Dallas, I just got back from Dallas. I'm traveling to Calgary, as you know, in Toronto. I've been to Philly and New York. It's just to see the energy of our teams is awesome. So I'm excited.
Yes, it is. Well, thanks for your time. And if listeners want to find you or ask you any questions directly, where are you online?
Great. I mean, the best is stuart.goldstein@modop.com. Send me a note.
Perfect. Well, thanks. And until next time, if listeners want to hear more episodes of Leader Generation, you can find that at modop.com. That's MODOP.com or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on all the channels. Thanks again.
Thanks.